Welcome to this webinar, The Hottest Businesses in 2023. It's being recorded, so you can listen again and again and again. The presentation and the link to the recording will be emailed to you. Please keep track of your questions, ask them in the chat function, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. I am so excited, Reva, for the next link and for this whole workshop. We always get so much out of you and your workshops. Reva Lasansky is President and CEO of GrowBiz. She can tell more about you herself if she wants to, and her bio is here. But most of you have heard her, you appreciate her, and I'm looking forward to learning so much today that I can help my clients with and even myself with. Reva, I'm turning it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Like Tom said, we're going to be talking about what's hot for 2023. That's who I am. You can email me. You see there, Reva at smallbusinesscurrents.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Reva at Post, which is a new social sharing site in case Twitter blows up, at Reva L, because they don't take 5-letter names there. We're going to talk about trends today. We have a newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. Currents, you can go to our website, smallbusinesscurrents.com, and sign up. It's free, it's short, and it always talks about something new. This is a really long presentation. I'm going to be talking pretty fast. So like Tom said, if you have any questions, we can talk at the end. But the presentation itself is chock full of information, so you can refer to it at any time, and all the info is there, and there's a lot of hyperlinks. So we're going to get started with looking at some hot demographics. So the one thing that is sort of going across all consumers is consumers look at their consumerism as activism, particularly in the younger generation. So I've seen different surveys lately, but generally it's thought that millennials and Gen Z really consider their consumerism a channel for change, and they're boycotting at least one company. They prefer to do business with companies who sort of mimic their values. So what do the generations want? So boomers, and every generation other than the boomers, have different start and stop dates. I don't know why. It's really frustrating, but it's generally around the same. So boomers are people who were born between 1946 and 1964. That's the only one we have standard dates for. That's a boomer year is a year that 4 million kids or more are born in the US. So the boomers are the first generation, that's my generation, to see a significant number of women in the workforce, and they're practical. They want solutions. Gen X, which came right after, because women by Gen X were in the workforce, people were looking for ways to find work-life balance. Millennials, who are basically in their mid-20s to early 40s, they're impatient, they're casual, they're very globally and environmentally concerned, and they prefer digital marketing. If you want to reach them, do it electronically. And Gen Z, teens to early 20s, they have a lot of shared belief with millennials. They're really good at multitasking, and they're all on social media. So teens, Piper Sandler is an investment bank. They do a survey twice a year about what teens are spending on. And you might think, why do I care? Well, teens, one, have a lot of their own money that they're spending, over $2,500 a year. And two, they have a lot of what they call pester power, which is hitting up their parents and grandparents for, like, buy me this, buy me that. Teen spending in the fall made a big rebound, led by teen girls, whose spending was up 10% from the fall of 2021. Girls are buying clothes and footwear. They've purchased something secondhand, while 60% have sold goods, and that's the other reason to pay attention to teens. They often lead consumer change, and we'll see later on that secondhand buying is just burgeoning right now, and it all started with the teen market. Upper income teens spent 30% on clothing, which is the highest since 2012. Makeup is making a comeback in the teen market. It's making a comeback everywhere. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. But you can see the teens are wearing makeup and cosmetics and fragrance. In general, they spend about 12% of their total money on video games, which is slightly down. And while teen girls spend most of their money on clothing, teen boys are spending most of theirs on food in restaurants. They don't mean going to the grocery store. They're very socially conscious, and TikTok is their favorite social media. And I saw yesterday that TikTok is sort of negotiating with the government about things that they're going to do, because there's some question about, you know, they're owned by a Chinese company, and some question about, I don't know, it's taking information, but they're working that out because it's really lucrative. So babies. Are babies booming again? No, because a boom year is 4 million. But in 2021, which is the last year we have numbers for, we'll know more in about 3 or 4 months from now for 2022. But 3.6 million babies were born. That's still a lot of babies, which was up in 2021, which is the first increase since 2014. Part of the reason that the birth rate is lower in general is teen births are hitting record lows, and younger women in 20 to 24. And that's because the average age of getting married has gone up in the last 15 years, probably from like 22 to 30, 31. And so people are having babies after they get married. And so that's why we see a lot of babies being born to women in their 30s and 40s. In general, though, all these babies being born to people in their 30s is good news for small business, because those people have more money to spend on their babies. So they're, you know, paraphernalia, you know, the diapers to furniture to books to toys to clothing. And the thing with kids is they're constantly outgrowing the clothes, right? So there's always a need to replenish. And Wall Street Journal just reported a couple of months ago that it costs over $300,000 to raise a kid today. So we're going to move from demographics to retail, online and in store. The latest numbers we have were from holiday shopping. The National Retail Federation issues a recap of the year probably next week, because their big conference is on right now. So we won't have those numbers right now. They will be announced in my newsletter, or I'll also announce them on Twitter. Or you can follow the NRF on Twitter too, and you'll see them there. So what we saw from Thanksgiving shopping is consumers shopped. People were talking about it's going to be a bad season. People aren't, you know, inflation, fear of recession. Consumers just like whatever, and just went shopping. The NRF predicted a certain number, and they beat the actual number, beat that by over 30 million. And what really was surprising is they shopped in stores. Not that it was surprising that they shopped in stores, but the number of consumers who shopped in person was up 17% from 2021. Online shopping grew at a slower pace only because people were shopping in stores. You know, it was first shopping season totally post-pandemic, and people just flooded to the stores to do that. Small Business Saturday, also good news for small business owners. Second highest shopping day of the Thanksgiving weekend, which is Thursday through Monday, Thanksgiving Day through Cyber Monday. And 77% of the people who shopped on Saturday specifically said they were there to support small business. And we've seen in other surveys that consumers are really aware of small businesses in their community and want to support them. So again, like I said, people were surprised people were spending so much. Matt Shea, who's the CEO of the NRF, says consumer demand is just driving growth. Retails understand, though, that consumers are a little concerned about, you know, money. So a lot of sales and promotions were driving sales. And basically at this point, consumers, that's what they want. They want deals no matter what. So if you want them to shop with you and not your competitors, you're going to have to continue to offer some kind of promotions and discounts. You want to incentivize them to do business with you. So let's look at e-commerce. So overall commerce sales are up. E-commerce are sales that take place over electronic devices, computers, phones, tablets. And you can see the trajectory where it's going, 2025, which is only 2 years from now. You can see it's still headed up. People are going to continue to shop online. And this survey from eMarketer shows that people are shopping online at least once a month, but really, when you add it all up, more frequently than that. You know, I know me, I'm shopping online at least once a week, and a lot of online shopping is moving to mobile. So that's m-commerce, right? So e-commerce is any electronic device. M-commerce is mobile commerce, which is commerce over phones and tablets. And over that Thanksgiving weekend where everybody was shopping, 52% of online sales were over mobile devices. So the key there is to make sure whatever you're selling, that it's optimized for mobile devices, which, you know, we used to tell people you have to get responsive design. Everybody kind of knows that, but you want to shop your own site on mobile and make sure that it's easy to buy, easy to navigate, and quick to load, because people have no patience. If you're not, they'll move on. And you can see the numbers from eMarketer there, that mobile commerce is expected to be an ever-growing part of the e-commerce picture. The new commerce, and new couple of years old now, is social commerce. So that is transactions that take place on a social media platform. So originally, social media was used to take people from that social platform and get them to go to your store, go to your website. So it was a marketing vehicle only. It's still a great marketing vehicle, but it's also a place to shop in and of itself. And a lot of that is driven by millennials. A lot is driven by Gen Z. They're really comfortable with it. You can see the most in-demand products, but I think that's going to spread. 64% of social media users, which worldwide, which is about 2 billion people, bought something via social media. Trust is, growing, but slowly. There's, if you've ever been on Instagram, it's like constant barragement of ads. So I think, and one of the things is, it's easy because a lot of companies are on there advertising, and consumers can get burned. Sometimes, it's not like they're getting, not getting a product, but sometimes my husband is 6'4", and I once ordered a shirt for him online at like an extra large, but it turned out to be a site from China, and it was more like an extra large kids. So that's, that makes some people like, I'm not going to do that again. So you really want to explain in your social commerce ads, explain what things are, describe them so you can put people at ease and they kind of know what to expect. And again, from eMarketer, you can see the rise in social commerce. They say Insider Intelligence eMarketer says it's going to be a return to basics this year, which means social media ads are going to drive a lot of the sales. TikTok, it's really well positioned here. It's leading the way. No, it's not quite number one. Facebook is, just because of its sheer size, right? All those users, just even a small percentage of a big number, you have a lot of shoppers. But TikTok is the one that's growing the fastest. Instagram is making some changes, I think, to kind of try to maintain its position above TikTok. But you can see there in this slide, the number of TikTok users, and people used to think, oh, TikTok's only for kids and teens, and it's not. More and more people are using it. And these three areas are areas that are particularly TikTok is particularly good at promoting beauty. And we'll talk about the beauty industry in general in a little bit, but TikTok moves a lot of beauty purchases, recipes. It's really good for that. So if you are a restaurant, think about how you can share recipes and cooking how-tos on TikTok videos. And we'll look at some numbers about what that actually does for restaurants. It's really pretty extraordinary. And thrifting, which is, again, secondhand purchasing led by Gen Z. And we'll talk about those numbers in a minute. Shipping is really important to people. When they order something, they want to make sure they get it. And there were so many delays during the pandemic that people are a little bit frustrated with the system. So the big thing there, it's what they call last mile notification. It's they feel better and less frustrated if they know where their package is. So it's not about, okay, it's late and I'm really mad. If they can look and see, okay, it's 3 days out or it's 4 days out, it makes them feel better about the whole process. And there's just, some software that you can attach to your website that lets them sort of track where their package is, and again, gives them peace of mind. Web3, there's a lot of talk about Web3 among the younger generation, but a recent survey from HubSpot says half of people don't even know what it is. I'm a little confused. I just opened an article the other day. I haven't read it yet that says, what is Web3? I mean, it's using a lot of online newer tools, AI and stuff to move sales. Experts say the technology is going to continue to grow, become more accessible, but HubSpot says don't pivot yet. Like you have time to worry about it. So what do consumers actually want? So if you joined me last year, they want click and collect. It's the same thing. Click and collect is any kind of thing where they can shop online and then go get their goods, right? So it's kind of a hybrid of e-commerce and in-store shopping. So it's popular. It's no longer the king of the hill as it was during the pandemic. But so this is, you can see the chart there of sales. You can see the growth at, during the pandemic years really took off. But it's still a growing phenomenon because it's convenient, and American consumers want convenience. So the National Retail Federation did a report that shows consumers plan to maintain a lot of their pandemic shopping behaviors, which includes curbside pickup. So curbside pickup is one part of click and collect. That is where they buy the item online, go to your store, park out front, let them know you're there, or in the back. They're parked there, let them know you're there, and you come and put the package in their car or hand it to them. So what do consumers want? They want curbside returns as well. Again, people are doing this because they don't want to go into the store. It's not convenient. In other parts of the country where the weather is it's too cold to get out of the car, too much snow on the ground. It's just a very convenient option. Or people coming home, picking up their kids from school, they don't want to get the kids out of the car. It just really helps. So you can see what consumers would make them do more curbside pickup, particularly eliminate minimum order requirements. And there really shouldn't be any for curbside pickup because it's not costing you any money. You do need to have some software that shows your real-time inventory, but you should have that anyway because this is how people want to shop. BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store. So it's the same kind of thing, except instead of waiting outside the store, they go inside the store to pick up the device. Convenient, not as convenient as curbside pickup, but convenient. So the key is if you have a lot of BOPIS shoppers, put where they go to pick up the items, put a lot of, what you might call stocking stuffers, whatever you're selling, put some things there that people inexpensive things that they can pick up, impulse purchases, and add to their purchase. If you don't understand what I'm saying, go to a Sephora store and you'll see what I mean. So BOPUS by generation, you can see who's using it and what they're buying online and picking up in store. Some BOPUS best practices: convenience. Again, that's more important than speed. They want the convenience of doing it. It's the same people who want faster delivery from retailers, though that's kind of changing. Amazon kind of got us to expecting packages overnight, and then Amazon doesn't even do that anymore. Well, they do, but not as often, not as frequently. And Amazon tries to incentivize you away from expecting it the next day by calling it delivery day and giving you $1 off, an online purchase or something. So again, and this is just, you can see why it's good for business owners is you're making more money without expanding your retail footprint. You're not spending more once you buy the software. You're not paying a third-party delivery service. You're not paying to mail a package. And consumers like it because they're not paying shipping and they don't have to wait for items. It's all about they get what they want when they want it, and they're not paying extra for it. Buy now, pay later is growing pretty quickly. You can see that eMarketer says more and more people are using buy now, pay later. Both in store and online. There are services that you can contract with that do the buy now, pay later charging and billing for you. One of them, I think, is called Affirm. I can't remember the name of the other one. But I saw a different chart that that Gen Z really likes buy now, pay later. Some of them are too young to have credit cards or don't want to run up credit card debt. So buy now, pay later is what they're using as options. Millennials, they love coupons and they like to get them over email. Overwhelmingly, they like to get them over email. And they want % off coupons. So you can see what drives millennial sales and why do you care? Well, millennials are the nation's parents. Nobody spends more money on things than parents because we talked about, like I said, kids always need something. Consumers want better loyalty programs. And so the old school eMarketer, you can tell that I use a lot of eMarketer information. It's really great. They charge customers a lot of money, but if you sign up for their daily newsletter, it's free and it's just chock full of info. And the old loyalty programs don't work anymore. People want solid loyalty programs and it actually influences where they shop, which is why it's really important that if you are a retailer, you want to offer a loyalty program. You have to be careful a little bit about loyalty because of cost. People are shopping more with an eye on their cash. But still, a loyalty program incentivizes people to come shop with you. Digital wallets are growing. This is where the money is in their phone. They're charged. They have phone. They're not carrying a credit card. They want to pay with their phone. So you just need to have the software in your store that accepts that. And it used to be a millennial thing, and now increasingly, particularly pushed by the pandemic, it's across all generations. Online, if you're selling online, people there are a little bit wary of privacy. The privacy rules just changed. California's new rule just went into effect in January. So you want to make sure you're compliant with that. And you want to see with consumers, they ask how many always accept cookies. 39% always do, because most people trust you, particularly if they know you and they know they're being tracked, right? They know that this is what's happening online. And so they want a unique experience. They understand enough to know that if you don't click on say, yes, I accept cookies, that experience is not going to be as personalized. So they understand that. So again, that's why they want it. It's about personal experience, and it's too consuming for them to figure out how to opt out, even though it shouldn't be. You just push a button. So what are overall the keys to convert people to buy from you? As I said before, they're prioritizing shopping at small and local businesses. So that's really good. Most shoppers want free shipping. That's just the way it is. They want a free and easy return policy, loyalty rewards. This is separate from that other royalty stat. So you can see it's really important. 70% want same or next day delivery. You can't do that. That's why you should offer those click and collect options. So consumer shopping trends, all this data is from HubSpot. So you can click on that. That's a hot link. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but you can see that searching the internet is where people discover products the most, even more than TV ads. And so that's really important for you to make sure that your SEO, your search engine optimization, is really, really up to snuff, because that's what people are doing. They're sitting down at their computer, they're going to a search engine, mostly Google. They have the overwhelming share of market, but Bing has about a quarter of first look, and they're looking for stuff. So that's where they're going to find you. You can see by generation, Gen X. So those are people born 1965. That's the start date to sometime in the 80s. It, like I said, it varies. They are shopping in store for product discovery, but they're also online, because that's sort of that sandwich generation between not being a digital native. That came next to shopping the old-fashioned way. Millennials like to discover products on social media advertising or sponsored content, and the internet. And Gen Z is all about social media. So purchasing, overall, consumers say they still prefer to purchase in a store. I think that changed with the season, with the weather, and with the state of whether there's a pandemic or not. So HubSpot says, focus on social media for your lead gen efforts, but make sure you have a strong in-store shopping option for people who want to go to the store to make their final purchase. You can see there the breakdown of where people are shopping and what they want. And what are their most important factors when they make a purchase decision? One is quality. If you're selling to them online, you have to describe the quality, because they can't feel it, right? That's one reason people like to shop in store, is because it's about touching and feeling and seeing, but almost as important as price. So you can't compete. You're not going to be the low price leader. Don't bother. So you have to offer other things, whether you're active in your community, whether you're offering a little bit extra, free wrapping, a loyalty program. That's how you're going to set yourself apart from your competitors. This slide shows the changes in shopping habits. So I've highlighted the US there with the big red arrow. And you can see that people want deals, but they're shopping within a budget. 29% say they're buying less. So that's almost a third, but not quite. And so you still have 2/3 of consumers who are not buying less. They're using coupons. And so again, what I want you to take away from this is you have to figure out what promotions work best with your market, with your audience, whether it's coupons, digital delivery, how you're going to do it. But remember that that's a big part of it. Insider Intelligence prediction for 2023 says it's going to be a tough year, but there are some silver linings. That's what this slide was, silver lining. I don't know if it shows up, but it was the best I could do when I searched on it. So whether it's through discounts or bundles or partnerships, you have to give consumers what they want, and what they want is to get more by spending less. Okay, So now let's move into the fun part, right? Those are all the stats. So now we're going to look at some of the businesses that are hot. Toys. So if you were with me last year, toys were hot. Well, they're still hot. They're hot because there's 3.6 million kids being born, and that's every year. So last year, there were in 2020, 2020, there were 3.5, and kids age out of certain toys, age into other toys. You can see the toy industry is growing sales over 12% year over year. Partly driven by inflation, but not all of it. Unit sales were also up. This is from NPD Group. Also, they charge thousands of dollars for their reports. But if you sign up for their newsletters or follow them on Twitter, because they're always say, hey, here's blah, blah, blah. And you can always click on that and it takes you to one of their reports. And they're a consumer study group. They're global. They have really good reports. You can see which toys are selling better and which are less. The most popular toys in the third quarter of last year, you can see Pokemon, Star Wars, Barbie, and Squishmallows. That picture is my great nephew playing with his sister's Squishmallow. So I got her that for the holidays. And I saw my niece FaceTime me when they opened it. She loved it. She hugged it, and he immediately ran over and stole it from her. So my niece had to go to the store and buy a knockoff. They're really, really popular. There's a bunch of Squishmallows again. So another part of the toy category is what they're calling kidults or kidults. I'm not sure how you say it. They are keeping the toy industry afloat. Biggest drivers of growth, responsible for about a quarter of all annual toy sales, about $9 billion. A kidult are people, consumers 12 years old and older. They tend to spend more money on toys. And I'm not saying that these are people buying toys for their kids. These are people buying toys for themselves. Popular cartoons, superheroes, collectible. They're buying the action figures, the Lego sets. So remember the thing I just showed you with my great nephew. So I was on Christmas Day when they opened them. I was at a friend's house, and my niece FaceTimed me, and I was showing my friend's 20-year-old daughter, because, looking at the kids opening their gifts. And when she saw the Squishmallow, she went, oh, I want one of those. I said, wait, you're 20 years old. It's a toy. She goes, everybody in my dorm, a lot of the girls in my dorm have them. And so that's what we're talking about with kidults. Like something like that is not only selling with the little kids, but so I bought her one. They're selling with the older kids as well. I mean, she's 20, so we're not even talking teenagers. Okay, beauty. I've mentioned beauty a lot. And the reason I have is because I think beauty is a great entry point industry for entrepreneurs. There's tons of brand names that most of you will recognize that were started by one person, usually with one product, that were bought by, one of the big cosmetic companies for millions and millions or even $1 billion. So you can see the global beauty market and the growth in the global beauty market. It's still going to increase. Oberlo, I'm not sure how you say that either, says the market size in 2023 is going to be about $572 billion, which is up 8% from last year. And it's the fastest growth rate in 13 years. So it's a really growing market. You can see the projections of where it's going to be. And we're going to add 2027, when you say it, it sounds like it's a long time. It's only 4 years. And basically we're adding $1 billion to that market worldwide. Again, this is worldwide, the best performing products in the beauty market: personal care items, skincare second, cosmetics third, and fragrances fourth. NPD says women are buying more. Cosmetic sales sunk during the pandemic. People weren't leaving their house. They weren't buying makeup. Last May of 2022, sales met and exceeded their pre-COVID levels. So it's just moving. Cosmetics are moving. People, if you want to get into the industry, look for the niche. Look for something, launch with a product, not a whole line. Don't ignore men or teens. And beauty products, like I told you before, sell well on TikTok, and that's a hyperlink so you can see specifically. What do consumers want? You can see there, they're looking for facial care, hair care, makeup. These are the kind of items consumers want. They want, this is the things they're most excited to try. Consumers are most excited to try. These are brand new information slides, geared for this year. So they're really relevant if you are in or want to be in the beauty business. Again, you can see what people are interested in and what they're buying. And you don't really have to go in with a cosmetic purchase, right? It could be an accessory like a brush or a sponge. Companies are born, the Beauty Blender, which is the dominant sponge. It didn't exist, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. So there's new products all the time. I believe we talked about Black beauty products in the fall. So I'm going to, kind of show this again, because I think there's a huge opportunity here for Black entrepreneurs to create beauty products to sell to the market that is looking for them. Black consumers are buying products, but they don't think there's enough beauty products that are geared towards them, that are geared towards that market. And they're actively looking for stuff to buy. And they're really open to buying new products that they've never heard of before, because you're basically coming into a universe that doesn't have a ton that they feel is suited for them, for their skin, for their hair. And they're 2.5 times more likely to think that a product made by a Black entrepreneur is better for them. And so they have no problem switching loyalty from their previous brand. You can see 95% would switch. That's a huge, huge number. There's about 12 million Black consumers in the U.S. No, there's more than that. I think it's 12% of the population. So one of the barriers to entry for Black beauty ventures is it's personal experience, and they don't have a lot of business training, which is why SCORE is ideal, right? Because you go to SCORE and you find out what you don't know, and someone is going to help you and walk you through the process. So there's help out there. There's a nonprofit called 15% Pledge, which goes to big retailers and says, you need to pledge to give 15% of your space to Black-owned beauty businesses. Ulta, which I think is the first or second largest seller of beauty products in the country, has taken the pledge. And so it's really open to looking at new products from Black entrepreneurs. McKinsey says, has told private equity firms to look for these kind of companies to invest in. That a lot of times the entrepreneurs need financial investment and advice. And so they've told, basically VC firms, this is a good opportunity, look for these kind of entrepreneurs to invest in. Target has a program also, which does training and helps Black people get their products on the shelves. And then you can read some successful stories from Black beauty company founders. Clean beauty there's no actual definition. It's not like organic, which the government says must be blah, blah, blah. So, but it's about ingredients. It's about not having certain items. There's big controversy about Sephora, which has a clean beauty program, having items in there that have some ingredients that people say aren't clean. So really, clean beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, there are certain things that nobody wants to see in a product that's labeled clean, but people are more aware of it. And a report from Klein says the clean beauty market grew about 10% last year, and that growth is going to continue. Market value $5.4 billion in 2020 to about 11.6 in 2027. So growth, not as fast as beauty in general, but growth. So this is what I talked about being innovative. This product launches in just 4 days from now at Ulta. And it's the first halal certified brand that Ulta has ever carried. And like I said, Ulta is like the first or second largest beauty retailer in the country. So for a product to be halal, it has to be made without alcohol or animal byproducts, and it needs to have ethically sourced products, ingredients. So the founder says her product is beyond clean beauty, but she's not just aiming it at Muslim consumers. She's targeting millennials and Gen Z who want to be part of something they've never heard before, but you can see there's a lot of oranges in there. Vitamin C is a very hot ingredient in skincare right now. And so she's taking advantage of that consumer trend and marketing it. Here, she sells on her website. She's going into Ulta. That's what I talk about, like figure out your niche in the beauty business. And, 5 years from now, I would guess that this company is going to be bought by one of the global beauty brands. Beauty services are also pretty hot right now. Hair, skin, which includes injectables and nails. The market growth was strong right before the pandemic, but that industry was pretty hard hit. McKinsey says it's going to take a while to come back to pre-pandemic levels, but it's getting there. Spas, salon services. That link from McKinsey, if you are interested in the beauty service business, I really suggest you click on it. There's so much information in this report. McKinsey is like one of the world's most renowned consulting companies, goes into businesses to make them over big businesses. So when they offer up information on, an industry that small businesses are part of, I always say consume that information. That information on Black beauty businesses also came from McKinsey. So it's really detailed and good information that most people would pay thousands of dollars for. You can see the beauty service industry is pretty fragmented in terms of company size, but 25% of the market has fewer than 5 employees, and another 37% are 5 to 19. So it's a market industry dominated by small businesses. Here are some of the trends that are shaping the services industry. I'm not going to read this because some of you don't care, but those of you who do can go back and look at that. Beauty service providers invest in products. So if you're a service business, add products. That does not just go for beauty service providers. If you are a service provider of any sort, think about what products you can add that you can sell is in addition to your services. Like even accountants can do that. Some more advice, you can see the profit margins higher for products than services, which is why. Men's makeup, big new part of the market. Growing particularly in younger generations. Skincare. I mean, I don't want you to just think makeup. Nobody in Fresno is going to wear makeup or whatever. There's a lot of interest in skincare for men as they get older. They want to take care of their skin. You can see what's next. This is for heterosexual males, so it's spreading across the entire male consumer market. John Legend, the singer of the EGOT, he's won everything, is launching February 1st, a unisex skin and beauty care brand for men and women. He's launching in CVS, also going into Walmart. So he's launching at the lower end of the market. Again, figure out a niche, carve a niche, start selling online, start using social media to launch your sales. Plus size products and inclusive sizing. The women's plus size market, it's still growing. There's some demand for inclusive sizing. That means somebody goes into a store and the store has all the sizes, or they go onto a website and it has a range of sizes from 0 to 40. Axios, which is a they're kind of a political reporting company, but they've gone more and more into consumer reporting as well. Shows you why the average woman in America wears a size 16 or 18. You would not know that if you walked into most department stores. Inclusive sizing is a big driver right now, particularly in intimates, which is, lingerie and that kind of thing. It's a market is growing. They expect it to grow even more. And it's not just for women, it's for men. Brands are still trying to figure it out. And those brands are also adding adaptive apparel for older people and people with disabilities, things with bigger zippers or really big buttons or snaps instead of buttons, or Velcro instead of all of that, for older people. Resale, we've talked about this a little bit. This is the secondhand market. It is growing like crazy. Led by teens several years ago. They started doing it because of the environmental impact. They thought, why would I buy a new t-shirt when I can buy a used t-shirt? One of my nephews, his whole teenage wardrobe came from thrift stores, so that was very big. And for that reason, not for money, but for, he was trying to be environmentally conscious. Now it's money as well. There's a report from Thread up there that talks about the whole retail market and how it's just a big part of retail's future. Some people are calling it re-commerce. You can again look at that growth that it's expected. Over $1 billion sales increase between 2021 and 2027. A lot of that is online. There are stores, though, that are telling consumers to bring back their merchandise, and they're putting floor space. They're dedicating floor space to used items. You can see that number. It's also in the furniture business. IKEA just said to their customers, hey, if your stuff's in pretty good shape and you want to return it, we'll pay you for it or give you store credit. And then people are coming in and buying it because they can save even more money on IKEA's low prices. They're saying the resale furniture market's going to increase 70% between what it was in 2018 and 2025. Barbie core. People are probably sitting, why is she showing me a Barbie doll? We're grown-ups. 207 million views on TikTok alone, and that was as of several months ago. There is a live movie being released in July 2023 with Margaret Robbie and Ryan Gosling, who some people will go to anything starring them. So this trend has infiltrated already its way into everything we do. Better Homes and Gardens says the hot pink home trend is going to be everywhere in 2023. Pantone agrees. People are buying pink furniture. They're buying pink fashion. It's all about pink. It's more energy. Again, all these things are hot length. It's about beauty. It's called Barbie core, and it's in every aspect of what we're doing. Pantone, which are the color experts, those are their colors that are going to be in clothing this spring, meaning starting next month. And you can see right in the middle, they call it beetroot purple, but that's Barbie core pink. There's just no question about it. Home. Who's buying homes? Millennials are. Again, they're in their mid-20s to early 40s. Obviously, those are the new home buyers. The typical first-time home buyer last year was 36 years old. Repeat buyer was 59. 61% of recent buyers were married. 17% were single females. 9% were single males, and 10% unmarried couples. That's the highest number of unmarried couples, I think, since they've been taking statistics. Hippo did a study and shows that millennial women are the largest, which we just saw, independent purchasers of homes. 48% of that, meaning people who aren't married or buying as an unmarried couple. Women are buying way more than men. They're not waiting to get married. They're buying houses on their own. As accessible home design, this is about people who are getting older, who are aging in place, right? They're no longer moving to Florida, moving to Arizona. They're staying in their homes. It's new data from Bank of America that shows 70% of homeowners between 45 and 76 say that I'm going to retire in the home I'm in. I'm not moving. I'm not even moving into a different home. There's a lot of opportunity there for construction, remodelers, interior designers to make over those homes, to make them accessible. You know, some of them need wider doorways or level floors so wheelchairs can work or people don't trip. And Pottery Barn just launched a line of accessible products. You can see a sink where you can slide a wheelchair underneath that. And they just said, we're trying to make life easier for older people and people with disabilities. Furniture sales kind of went down a little last year. They're expecting it's still going to down. I mean, it was still basically a $400 billion market, but it wasn't booming as much. And you can see it's going to hit 431 by 2025. Food. This is what the National Restaurant Association says are the hot culinary forecasts for this year. So if you own a restaurant or if you want to open a restaurant, this is what people are clamoring for nationwide. They're forecasting industry restaurant sales to be $855 billion this year. You can see the Nation's Restaurant News, which if you own a restaurant, you really need to subscribe to. If you subscribe online, I think it's like $50 a year. And it's just so much information. Says that millennials and 53% of millennials and 38% of all TikTok users visited a restaurant and ordered food after seeing a TikTok video of it. And that's what I mentioned before. So TikTok is now driving older, millennials are not teenagers, are driving older people into restaurants. And people who see that video are willing to drive longer distances. Ghost kitchens they're calling them hybrid now. So previously they said you could open a ghost kitchen. It can be in a not so great part of town because nobody's coming there, right? Basically it's food delivery. It's a kitchen. It's not a restaurant. There are no tables. Well, the hybrid version of it is, it's not in a bad part of town because people can come there and pick up their food themselves, or they'll hold a private event there. It's still not a restaurant because there aren't tables, right? There's no table service, but people are interacting with personnel there. Non-traditional expansion, particularly for smaller businesses. Look at places outside of a traditional place like a college, a university, a food hall, an airport, where you can open up. Outdoor dining, also part of that consumer, not going to change from the pandemic, grew tremendously during the pandemic. And a lot of local areas have changed zoning or changed the design of some of their streets and allowed this space to expand, and people like to eat outside. We're California. I grew up in New York, so it used to be like, oh, it's June, we can eat outside. Here in California, I live in Southern California, you can eat outside almost every day of the year when it's not raining. But for the rest of the country, they're really enjoying that year-round outdoor eating. They're looking at tequila. Vodka has been the #1 selling alcohol since the 70s, and tequila is right on its heels. So we don't have sales yet, final sales for 2022, to see if tequila toppled it. But if you own a restaurant or a bar, you want to make sure you have it. Nation's Restaurant News had their editors make predictions, and some of those predictions are, one, your restaurant owner should add merchandise to their thing, meaning like bottle your salsa or your tomato sauce, or t-shirts or fun stuff if you have a theme. Pickleball is really hot right now all across the country. Too hot. I just saw a segment on HBO of Brian Gumbel's show, and there were people complaining about how pickleball is taking over. People are getting rid of some tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts. But this entrepreneur is going to launch a combination restaurant pickleball place in 2024. He's launching with 10, my guess is, with the intent of franchising. Cocktails and mocktails are going to be gaining popularity. We're going to look at that in a second. The plant-based bubble will burst. Chefs don't like to cook with non-meat items. They're not going to go away, but they're thinking manufacturers, there'll be a shakeout there, and fried chicken burritos are going to be popular. The nut of the year is pistachios. People expect this, the Bauman Whiteman people are restaurant consultants, and they expect the use of pistachios to be on even more foods, pizza, Mexican food. It says Moe's, that should be Mole. I'm sorry for the typo. If you own a restaurant, you want to attract Gen Z, right? In this report, it's 18 to 24. Again, ages vary. They often visit restaurants. And remember what I said about teens, right? Teens, boys were spending the bulk of their money on going to restaurants. They're very price conscious because a lot of them are in college or just starting out working and not making a ton of money. So if you live in an area with a lot of Gen Zers, think about that, and you want to up your promotion. Kombucha, it's a fermented tea, hard kombucha. Sales are up tremendously. That's what we talked about. Alcohol, growing. So this is one thing you might want to make sure you have in your restaurant. Nation's Restaurant News, read that article if you own a restaurant. It's just chock full of information. They say update your loyalty program, just like retailers. That's what consumers are looking for. And look at all the ways technology is making restaurant operation easier. Professional services. All this information came from a professional services consultancy in Australia, but it just mimics what's going on in the US. So I included it here. You can see where the hot links are. They're struggling to find and keep skilled workers. So you want to provide an excellent employee experience because those employees are the ones who are providing the excellent client experience. So happy employees make happy clients. It's just a big differentiator with how your clients are experiencing your company. Companies are investing in improving the customer client experience because that's it today. You have a lot of competition, so it's about providing the best experience you can to set you apart from your competitors. A lot of people are, again, ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. They're looking for companies that are mimicking their own values. It's really important to people, not just retailers, but to people service businesses that they're doing business with. Pricing is really a concern right now. Again, just like with retail products. So benchmark to see where your pricing and value stacks up against the market. That's what's really important. You don't want to be an outlier. You don't want to charge more than everybody else unless your service is so unique. And clients are willing to pay more when they receive excellent customer service. Focus on client retention this year. That's a big, big issue. So it's about asking for feedback and acting on that feedback and thanking the client for giving the feedback and telling them how you enacted what they said. Consumers want to feel like they're making a difference. Some general business trends, chatbots. If you have a website, it's really a good idea to put a chatbot on there. It's AI, but people who can't get any help get really frustrated. People who even get limited help from a chatbot are less frustrated. And the chatbot may just lead them to a knowledge base where the question, you have your FAQs all queued up, but it just makes consumers less stressed and more happy to do business with you. Leverage user-generated content. So when we talk about marketing, which we'll be doing later this year, it's about content. Google says that websites need to have new content on it. as a content provider, my whole life, it comes fairly easy to me. It's not fair. I don't think it's fair, but that's what Google says. So you have to find other places to get your content from. So basically that's user-generated content. So you turn to the people who are your customers and see if you can somehow incentivize them. And sometimes the lure is just seeing their name in print, right? It's just like, hey. And so ask consumers, your customers, to contribute user reviews, maybe video content, some images, share images. This is easy for retail. It's actually easy for a lot of service businesses as well. Talking about their experience, what they found, what they did. You want to make sure, you don't have to hire an editor, but you want to make sure, use like a grammar online. There's several different grammar programs. You want to clean it up because it's still reflective of your brand, right? It might be written by them, but people are judging your company for it because it's under your website. And some businesses are developing reward programs for consumers who share their content. Like if you own a kids clothing store or a kids bookstore, ask parents for, like, hey, can you give me a little anecdote about what your kid's favorite toy is, or share a story about your kid's favorite book. And you put that online, and then other parents are going to read it, and they're going to start sharing stories. And all of a sudden, you not only have the content, but you've developed a community. And that is really important to consumers today, to feel like they're part of something where people, with similar likes and dislikes and issues are. Be authentic. That's really, when people say they want to do business with people who share their values, but you want to be your authentic self. That's where small businesses can really stand apart from big businesses. That's why somebody might come into your store rather than go to Walmart, or come into your accounting office rather than, use a big accounting firm. It's about what you can offer them. It's about the connection you make with them. And it's about you being authentic. So on your site, share a little bit about your personal story. If something cool happened to you on the about page, talk about that. Talk about, why did you want to become an accountant? Were you born to this? Did you always love this? Or to talk about whatever that is that makes somebody connect with you. A lot of restaurants do this, right? On their menus, say our story, and you read, oh, their grandfather started this, blah, blah, blah. But it seems silly, but it makes you become a person to the consumer and not just a business. And so you're establishing a connection. Be personal, because people want personal experiences. They want customized products. They want things that they feel are made for them, that are there to suit their life and not just everybody. So technology makes this a lot easier today. On your website, it's about software that looks at what somebody has bought before and makes a recommendation about, if they come to your site and that they've bought a red sweater from you, you can, hey, here's some suggestions for things that might go with that red sweater. Or if you are, in the financial services business, when it's tax time, when they're getting stressed, what their busy time is. So it's about, again, establishing personal connections. I grew up, my dad owned a clothing store on a street in Queens, New York, right? This was before malls. So it was a neighborhood store. So when people walked into that store, he knew their story. He knew what they needed. He related to them in that way, and that made them loyal to that business because they knew they'd go in there and they'd get taken care of. They weren't just somebody, just another customer. I can remember I was like 15 years old. I would work certain times of the year in the store. And this guy walks up the store and my father says, go help him match his ties to his shirt. And I'm like 15. And like I said to my father, he's a grown-up. He can match his own ties to his shirt. And my father says, he's colorblind. Go help him match his ties to his shirt. Now, you walk in a store today, people don't know that. But if you bother to get information about your customer, so that man, every time he needed to buy clothing, he came to my dad's store because he didn't have to explain anything. My father knew he was colorblind and knew that he would need that kind of help. AR and VR, it's growing. I think it's probably growing slower than people originally thought, but this is also really big in the services industry, virtual conferences. We're really big in the pandemic, but a lot of people stayed there in virtual conferences because they're more cost effective. It's cheaper to stage. It's easier for your intended audience to attend an online event. Particularly if you're in an industry or you're trying to attract people not from just a local market, it's easier. It's a lot cheaper. People aren't paying for hotels and airfare or paying for gas to get there or having to devote, 4 days, including travel time, away from their business. So this is and if you've not done events because of that, because of the cost, or because you don't think you could attract clients and customers, think about putting on a virtual event because it's relatively inexpensive to do that. There's a rise of software as a service subscription model. They're saying it's going to become more popular. A few reasons. It's more predictable and reliable. So if you do it, you can kind of count on a certain amount of money coming in. And you know how much it is, so it's easier for you to budget on money going out. And the cloud has just made all of this just a whole lot easier for customers to institute. Pickleball, remember I mentioned that without that store. Here is the number. So in general, sports specialty is booming right now. Specialized online sports retailers 2 or 3 times more likely to be the preferred shopping destination for sports that are heavily equipment based. So again, it's kind of like the beauty industry. Start with a niche, right? You don't want to be Dick's Sporting Goods. You can't enter in the market and compete with Dick's. So pick an industry or pick a niche and focus on that. And that way it's called the enthusiast market. People who are users of that industry tend to be more loyal, tend to be always needing something to buy, right? There's always a need of some merchandise or something new to buy. Pickleball, fastest growing sport in America. You can see sales revenue from paddles and balls together grew 53%. This is from 2021 to 2022. During the pandemic, about more people started playing it. It's I've never played it, so I don't. It's supposedly easy. It's easier than tennis. It's a sport that a lot of older people can take part in, which is part of the reason it's become more popular. It's, as I just said, more popular with the baby boomers. NPD, remember I told you about them, said that the sport's gaining popularity with older millennials as well. They're starting to open pickleball courts in a lot of places. In some, like here in Southern California, a lot of our neighborhoods have tennis courts, from the homeowners association. People are putting pickleball courts in instead. TikTok has over 195 million views of pickleball. I just updated that last week, that number. So who knows, because it's growing. The opportunities in that. Again, when there's something new that happens, right? When you are on the beginning of a trend, don't just think of, okay, it's pickleball, it's a paddle, it's a ball. it extrapolates out into other industries, right? So Alice and Olivia is a fashion brand. I think they just basically mostly sell to younger women, kind of fun stuff. They launched a pickleball collection, right? High Snobiety released a special paddle in partnership with Wilson, who are, they make a lot of tennis rackets and stuff. There's a startup that says pickleball that are building their entire brand around that game. So these were pickleball fans. They were young and they just thought, hey, clothes need to be more fun. And they got their clothes into J. Crew. Pickleball weddings, people are getting this report on the show on HBO, the Brian Gumbel show, talked about how people are getting obsessed with this because it's a much more accessible sport for people of all ages. And so again, will it last forever? Who knows? There's no reason to think that it won't, infiltrate its way into American society and just, it might not have as big a growth curve as it is right now, but there's no reason to think it's going to get less popular. So think about ways that you can, launch into it. Are you in a fitness business? Well, maybe if older people, maybe you go to a place where, like a senior living facility, or even an over 55 community, and give pickleball lessons or that kind of thing. There's all different ways. Every market has different ways that you can get into it, right? It's not just one way in. That's why I talked about service providers need to start selling products. It's about all the different ways that you can get into the market and expand what you're doing so you can make more money. So I talked a lot about some groups. These are the places that I usually look at to get a lot of trend information. Mintel, NRF, NPD, Nielsen, McKinsey, they charge, like I said, a lot of money to clients to do big projects for them, but they all have free newsletters or news releases that you can sign up for. Like if you go to NPD Group's homepage, you can click the industry that you're interested in and just sign up for their news releases. Follow them on Twitter because they announce the information they put there. Insider Intelligence, eMarketers, same thing, costs a lot of money. They do have a daily newsletter. They might have two. They might have one just for retailers and one in general. There's so much information in those free daily newsletters. I mean, a ton of information and charts. All those eMarketer charts I don't subscribe to them, came from the free newsletter. Nation's Restaurant News, Restaurant Business must reads if you own or want to own a restaurant. Currents is our newsletter. And Christina, I think, is going to tell you about SCORE resources.
Wow, Reva, thank you so much for all that information and such, great topics there. So some of the SCORE resources that are available to you is we redesigned our whole website. So we have a whole resource library there for you. You can go in and take a workshop and view other on-demand workshops that are available and your local workshops. So you can go there. That is at score.org. If you are interested in requesting a mentor, which I highly recommend you do, you can do so by visiting our website at score.org/find-mentor. And if you have some free time and you would like to become a volunteer, we have a link there for you as well. And like Reva said, these are all clickable links. They're all embedded here for you, and you'll receive the handout as soon as the webinar is over today. And on the next slide, I believe we'll get in.
Yeah.
Q&A.
So I want to say thank you. Q&A, I do want to say what Christina said. When I sold our current site is smallbusinesscurrents.com. Our original site was smallbizdaily.com. And we sold it a year and a half ago. and I could not have sold it. I would not have known what to do. I got the offer and I was like, what do I do? And I called a SCORE mentor, and they guided me through the entire process. And I got more money than I thought that I would. So I highly, highly, highly recommend finding a SCORE mentor. And with that, here I am. So thanks.
Thank you, Reva. You have brought us more information. We are definitely going to download the video and watch it over and over again and read the presentation, because it was an information explosion and so encouraging. I have several questions and more are coming in, I believe. I think the first one, for someone who was inspired or informed today about one of these businesses, what do you think that the biggest mistake they might make in picking one of these and deciding to develop it?
So these are what's hot, and that doesn't mean that's the business for you, right? You have to match up consumer demand with what you want to do. I'm not a believer, people say, pick your passion and start a business. Well, if it's your passion, other people might not share that passion. So you can start a business and nobody cares. So you have to match up what you care about and what market demand is. So make sure whatever it is you're going to do, whether you've been inspired by something here or there's something that you personally love, to do your homework, to do your research, to make sure that there's a demographic that exists that wants your product. If it's going to be an in-person business, if you want to open a store, if you want to open a restaurant, make sure that the people that you have, the demographic makeup in your area that is catering to that market. And there's a lot of, go call your local Chamber of Commerce. They have the demographics. Look online at the US Census Bureau information, tons of information there demographically about, what people of what age are living in that area. So do your homework first. And again, I talk it out. If you don't know what you want to do, go talk to your SCORE mentor, because they're local people, right? You can access a local SCORE mentor who knows your area. You can access a national one too if you want, but who knows your area, knows what works, knows what doesn't, knows the businesses that have failed and maybe why. And maybe you want to do that business, and here's somebody who made a mistake, and here's how you can avoid that mistake. So do your homework and get help. Preparation.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. And yes, SCORE mentors are definitely here to help. I want to look and see if there is a next question. Did you receive any, Christina, that came through?
I have not. I haven't received any questions yet. I do want to mention we have an upcoming webinar again with Reva in February. It's a very exciting topic. It's going to be selling online. So whether you're selling on Amazon or Etsy, I highly suggest that you sign up for the webinar. I'll be sending the link to everybody. That way you can register and you don't miss that webinar.
So I'm going to add, we have a couple of mentors in the room, Mike and Lynn. If they want to submit a question they may have heard from their clients, but one that I have on my desk that my clients also ask frequently, and I bring to you. Of those trending business opportunities, are there any that you can think of that may have a lower entry point in terms of personal investment and capital outlay?
Well, service businesses always generally cost less to start than product-based businesses, right? I mean, online has changed that a little bit, but you still need to buy inventory. Though, you can do drop shipping, which we'll talk about next month in the webinar. So that's an easier way. You don't have to necessarily have that big outlay. So one of the things that I mentioned last year that I didn't have time to fit in is financial advisors. If you are a financial advisor, right? So you have the training, you have clients, the younger generation, the Gen Zers and the younger millennials all live through their parents living through recession. So they're really conscious of trying to budget their money, of getting advice now. Previously, younger generations didn't care about saving for retirement. They thought it was something far off. It didn't matter. But younger people today are much more cognizant of that. And so if you're a financial advisor, think about shifting your market, right? That's no cost to you. You have a clientele. You're probably ignoring the 20-somethings because you're thinking they don't care, but they do. So think about how you shift that market to include them, to be more inclusive. That's one thing. And again, if you want to sell something, start a website, or don't even start a website. Join us next month. And I mean, you do have to have a website no matter what, but you don't have to sell on that site. You can sell on Amazon. You can sell on Etsy. You can sell on other marketplaces. So your investment is just about the product, whether you make it yourself or whether you import it or buy it from somewhere else.
Now, Julio is asking, he's actually introducing that the idea that he has a niche custom enthusiast business in Fresno. I think he sent me a note saying he had lots of questions. So
one of his questions was, I would like funding to grow his business.
Well, you know, funding is hard, right? You guys can address that better than I can. I believe I once saw a stat that said 90% of all startups are funded by friends, family, and credit cards. So, you know, you have to be careful today. Credit card rates are higher than they were, but is there startup funding out there? Chances are you're not going to get it from a bank. Again, Tom, you probably know better than I do.
Well, I was just going to say, Julio, this is one of our specialties. You really want to get a mentor. We have recently run some very good webinars. These are still available to you for replay, but the best way to connect with that information is to start by applying for a mentor. Christina will put the link in the, well, you've seen the link on the slide, but it'll be in the email and it will also be in the chat.
Let me jump in here. Julio is already a client. His mentor has not been able to meet with him. Julio, I will send an email to you and we'll reconnect again. I know you've been trying to reach out the last couple of months and you've been neglected. So I will reach out to you and answer those questions for you.
Thank you, Peter. And I was going to say the same thing if that was the issue. So there's several of us that can meet with you even as soon as tomorrow. So reach out to Peter and that will be the, that will help answer that question. We had a question from Michael. Michael is asking for suggestions for arts and crafts folks to find outlets for their creations. I know you already mentioned Etsy.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Michael. So one, there's a lot of cities, local cities that have arts and crafts fairs. So you want to make sure, get a list of events from places, you know, draw an area like on a map of how far you're willing to travel to display your wares. So that's one thing. Etsy for sure. Amazon also has a handmade section on their site that they're highlighting crafts. And again, I think the key is your SEO, because people are looking for those original kind of items. And while many of them might start at Amazon or might start at Etsy, a lot of them just sit down at their computer and go, you know, handmade, blah, blah, blah. And so you want to make sure that your SEO is really up to snuff. And I would look at social commerce as well, right? Make sure you're on Pinterest. Pinterest doesn't get talked about a lot because since Instagram and TikTok launched, you know, more shopping, but Pinterest is a great place. It's basically a mall. It's just a huge mall. And so go, if you're not already on Pinterest, go on there, you know, establish a page and make sure with social media, the key is to cross promote everything. Use your Twitter, use your Facebook, use your Instagram to send people to your Pinterest page. Or, you know, it's a lot easier when you're on Pinterest to buy something than it is when when you're on Instagram, because Instagram has weird rules about where links are allowed, though I think they're going to change that because they're trying to compete with, everybody's trying to compete with each other. And so they're making it more convenient. But I think it's a very good time to sell handmade items because consumers want them because they're more personalized.
Thank you, Reva, for that. Pinterest is, I know people that shop for Pinterest all day for ideas.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
Thank you. I think that probably does not exhaust the questions, but it's like going to a great buffet. Where do you start? With the crab legs or the lobster tails? Anything else at the last minute before we bid you all great success? Hook up with your mentor as soon as possible, and we will try to do better. Peter, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Reva. We'll always look forward to seeing you, and we will see you at the next round.
Yep.
And it's going to be an exciting meeting, and more importantly, it's a really exciting time for entrepreneurs right now. And they are coming in more prepared, more than likely. And again, connect with a mentor, and we will help guide you through that. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. SCORE volunteers, please stay on.